Welcome back. Being the official accommodation booking partner for ICC's Men's Cricket World Cup 2023 has worked well for the brand, says Santosh Kumar, country manager for India, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Indonesia, Booking.com. He is speaking to us about their association with cricket and ICC and other sports and how are Indians travelling today, key travel predictions for 2024 and much more. Listen in.
First of all, welcome to CNBC TV 18.
Thank you, Shibani, for having me.
How has your association with this entire one-day international World Cup that is happening in India been for Booking.com? First of all, what were your business expectations and how much of the expectations have been met out of this tournament?
Yeah, look, I think the partnership with ICC is sort of a continuing one for us in terms of our focus on sports tourism in general as a company. And if you see sort of some of the investments we've been making over the last few years, we've sort of zeroed in on a few priority markets globally for us. And that has meant also sort of focusing on a few priority, let's say, sports that are popular in those parts of the world. So some examples I can give you: in the US, we're focusing on Major League Baseball. We're doing the Super Bowl ads for a couple of years now. In Europe, we've been doing the UEFA Soccer League as well as Eurovision. And then more relevant to Asia Pacific, we've done the FIFA Women's World Cup earlier this year. That was in Australia, New Zealand.
Yeah.
And also the partnership with ICC, International Cricket Council, has been an ongoing one for the last 5 years, where we've partnered with them on all their events across the world. So, that means all cricket playing nations, wherever that has a focus. And specifically for these World Cups, the highest priorities are sort of India, obviously, because most of the eyeballs, 90% plus fans of cricket globally are located in India. Plus, additionally, we have a few, let's say, focus markets like Australia and New Zealand as well as in Europe, it'll be England. So it's kind of, it's helping us in all of those markets. For ICC specifically, I would say, it's kind of on the back of also what we aim to do in India, right? So India, if you look at it, India is sort of really at an inflection point with all of the key leading indicators coming through very nicely, whether it's the GDP, whether it is our demographics, with our young population, whether it is the rising cohort of Gen Z and tier 2, tier 3 markets, internet penetration, smartphone penetration. All of this is, great news for an e-commerce company like us. And so therefore, for us, it made a lot of sense to focus on cricket, which is probably the number one, preference for most Indians. And I would say that so far we've been very happy with the way things have gone, right? And so we are sort of looking at both, in addition to in-stadia advertising and fan campaigns, we've also been, making the most of it, I would say, off the pitch, through our TV commercial, through, social media campaigns, things like that. So overall, I would say very, very happy with the way things have gone.
And how successful has the partnership been in terms of return on investment? What is the impact on the business that you have seen in the country and in the region?
I would say that in all host cities, we've seen a sort of a spike in demand. So if you look at our searches that we have observed, across the board, especially the matches where India has played and also some of the other high ticket games, we've seen a definite increase in demand, demonstrated by the searches that we are seeing on the platform. We've also seen an increase in the inbound as well as domestic flight bookings, right? So to give you a sense, overall inbound flight bookings are up about 15% year over year, the same period, right? That also factors in a little bit the organic growth as well that the market is seeing, because obviously India is growing as well, and we're seeing an increase in that. So it augurs pretty well, right? Because when I compare with sort of what the inbound traffic into the country has been otherwise over the course of the year, I would say definitely during this period we've seen a spurt.
What are some of the key trends that you're observing, in this extended festive period that started in August with Independence Day and Raksha Bandhan and up to Diwali, because this is also a time when Indians travel. So how are Indians traveling during this festive, marrying this entire cricketing season that the country is going through?
The travel combined with the Cricket World Cup combined with the festivals has really led to a spurt in travel both in tier 1 cities as well as tier 2 cities. We've also observed that there are different segments of accommodation that are benefiting from this. So it's not just the traditional hotels, but it's also some of the alternate accommodation, whether it is homestays, villas, bed and breakfasts, etc. They're also benefiting because in a lot of cities, the supply is a bit constrained when it comes to
Yes,
traditional hotel supply,
yes,
right?
yes.
So that has led to spillover into demand for the alternate accommodation segment, which is great news overall for the industry,
Yeah.
because it's also helping those micro entrepreneurs. It is helping give back to the local communities. It's leading to people traveling more authentically, right, where they're experiencing local cultures and cuisines, etc. So we've seen all of that. We've also seen, a couple of other things. In fact, we put out a recent How India Travels report. This was in partnership with McKinsey, as well as we put out another, a travel confidence index a little earlier in the year, where we saw that Indians in general, there are a couple of other trends I wanted to highlight, right? Indians in general, one, are traveling more for experiences, right? They want to be able to travel to off-grid locations, tier 2, tier 3 locations. And then the other one is the rise of responsible travel. So they all want to travel more sustainably. So if given a choice, people will want more sustainable options, but they're not necessarily willing to pay more for it, at least at this point in time, right? So I think it's a trend that we will have to kind of observe, wait and watch to see. It's also dependent on the industry in terms of how accommodation suppliers, airline suppliers can come together to help people travel more responsibly.
Yeah.
But undoubtedly, we are at the beginning of that kind of trend, I would say.
Yeah. And how has the past 1 year fared for, especially India market over the past 1 year? How has it fared for booking.com? Also, you just completed 1 year at booking.com. So what has the past 1 year been like for you?
Action-packed, Shibani. We've the industry, if you see the trajectory, right, over the last 3 years or so, the industry has been through a lot. 2020 and 2021 was arguably a couple of the worst years as far as travel and tourism were concerned. But 2022 and this year as well, we've seen a significant return back, right? It helped to a large extent that people had a lot of discretionary spend that they had saved. We saw people traveling, taking more trips last year in 2022 than they would, take in a normal year prior to the pandemic. And that has continued to a large extent in 2023, right? Despite prices increasing across the board. I would have to say that my journey, I kind of entered booking at a time where obviously things were again coming back on the up. And it's been action packed because we've really benefited by going back to the basics in terms of focusing on our partner relationships. We've built up some really strong relationships in this particular market. We really owe it to our partners across the board, across all segments. We have started to invest a lot more in India now. So, we are investing in, we have Hindi now, which is launched on the website and the app. We want to be able to be more relevant to the Indian consumers outside of the metro cities as well. We have a great brand name, but not a lot of Indians outside these metro cities are still aware of us, right? So we have a lot of work left to do, I would say, in terms of making sure that our brand name is better recognized, across the country. And that is
investment in advertising also going forward, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so we've always been very big on digital marketing, right? So we are one of the biggest spenders on, I would say, when it comes to social media, Google in general, right? Over the years, we've always done that. But in the last few years, there has been a little bit of a shift also toward brand marketing. Because we recognize that brand marketing is also very important. So therefore, these investments in sports tourism, in the LGBTQ plus segment, which we are also investing in a few priority markets globally, And I'm sure this is only the beginning, right? We will hopefully continue to do more as far as the brand marketing is concerned, because we recognize that ultimately both digital and brand is very important if we want to continue to be, top of mind for the Indian consumer.
Yeah, and of course, association with the likes of Rohit Sharma and that entire on-ground presence that we have seen for booking would definitely help this cause. Going forward, Santosh, what are some of the key trends that you are seeing or you're foreseeing for 2024?
Yeah, I think, look, I think as far as the next quarter or so is concerned, and in fact, we just released our last quarter earnings report, and the numbers continue to be very strong, right? When I look at also what is on the books for at least the next few months, travel demand continues to be strong. And we are not seeing people sort of trading down just yet. What I mean by that is somebody who was staying, let's say, at a five-star hotel previously continues to stay at a five-star hotel, right? They're not suddenly spending less and going and staying at a four-star hotel, right? So as of now, consumer sentiment is still strong. But having said that, I also know, having studied economics in business school, ultimately there's the law of supply and demand, right? So if prices continue to increase as they are at the moment, at some point it might have a knock-on effect on the consumer. As of now, we are not seeing that yet, Shibani, right? But I would say the outlook for 2024 is kind of, we're cautiously optimistic.
That's what even the media planners and buyers are saying about marketers spending in this economy. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Shibani. Pleasure.
And now it's